Greetings fellow Mist Wanderers, my name is Steve Morgan and this is DM of the Mists, covering all things Curse of Strahd and Ravenloft. In this video I wanted to talk about alternative uses for the Tarokka deck from Curse of Strahd, because I've seen some posts and some places where people had said, oh, is there more to it than just using it in Curse of Strahd for Madam Eva's Tarokka reading? And the answer is officially no, that's it, but obviously some people have come up, myself included, with additional ideas. The Tarokka reading in Curse of Strahd is really cool, really important. Some people even go as far as getting the official deck like I've got here. I don't know if they still make this and you can still get it these days. I got this a few years ago. But there's also people who make their own or print off their own. And if you don't have a Tarokka deck, you can repurpose a ordinary pack of playing cards. You know, Jack, Queen, King, equate to certain things. So, yeah. And then it's a shame really, especially if you do fork out for or get hold of a Tarokka deck like I did, and then you do the Tarokka reading with Madam Eva, and then that's it. That's the cards used, and you know, there's nothing else. So this video goes through a bunch of things I've come across that allow you to reuse the Tarokka deck. Some of them are adventure ideas, some of them are supplements. One of them is a magic item, some of them are just wacky things you can do, some of them are games. Hopefully there's a bit of a mix here. There's going to be more for wider Ravenloft than Curse of Strahd, which is why I've branded this video more as a Ravenloft video than a Curse of Strahd video, but there are a few ideas and ways you could use it in Curse of Strahd beyond Madam Eva's Tarokka reading as well. And in fact, the first two I'm going to cover are two ideas I've seen where you can use it in Curse of Strahd, bolted onto Madam Eva's Tarokka reading. The first of these is personal readings. My title in my notes says MandyMod's personal readings. I don't know if she invented the concept. I know there's a lot of people who do personal readings outside of MandyMod, but I think MandyMod was the first time I came across it. For those of you who don't know, sorry, MandyMod is a very popular mod guide creator for Curse of Strahd. In her Reddit post, and there's now a newer DM's Guild PDF as well, I'll include links to both in the description, she talks about, in addition to drawing the 5 cards, she draws an additional 2 cards per player, one from the high deck and one from the low deck, which I think is also called the common deck. They are personal readings, and she tries to sort of improvise and think of ways that the cards could tie into the character's backstory. Because I've got the pack of cards with me, I'm going to attempt this, and for a bit of fun, I'm going to use this little dude here. So this is Ami. He is my, I don't know how well this is going to come across in the camera. What I'll do instead is I'll put a picture or something here. Ami is my gem dragonborn wild magic sorcerer from the game where I'm a player. I'm not just a DM, one of my players in my Ravenloft campaign. I give up one of my Sundays every week for her to run a homebrew like campaign and world that she runs, and I play Ami in that. And Ami's backstory is that he was separated from his 2 best friends, and he's looking for his 2 best friends. So I've got the low deck here, and draw a card, and the high deck over here. That's just 14 cards. It's 40 low deck cards and 14 high deck cards, if memory serves. And the 2 cards I've drawn are Rogue. Oh man, that's a tough one. He was traveling with a rogue, so that was one of the other PCs, so I could probably come up with something like that. But he's a bit of a rebel and a bit of a scamp himself, even though he's not officially a rogue, he's a sorcerer. So I'd probably think of something like that. And then innocent. His 2 friends were innocent, they didn't do anything wrong. Where have they gone? Are they in trouble? Are they hurt? Are they dead? I'd probably think of something like that. It's hard to do this kind of thing. I guess you'd need to know your player's backstories pretty well, and really think about, like, as soon as you see a card, just kind of think, what's the first thing that comes to mind related to the backstory, and kind of wing it from there. It's a hard thing to think on your feet and do stuff like that. Taking it one step further is personal readings, but they are sort of player hook quests, and I saw this in Pyram King's resources. So Pyram King, another mod guide creator, I think his series of mod guides is called Legends of Barovia, and he, similar to MandyMod, does personal readings, but then tries to tie a quest into them. So if we kind of redo the same thing again with Ami, my Dragonborn Wild Magic Sorcerer, this time I've drawn Mercenary. Oh gosh, wow. maybe he's got to hire someone to help him. I wouldn't really say they're mercenaries, but my immediate thought goes to the two wolf hunters in the Blue Water Inn. So maybe he's directed to them. And then after that session where I draw this card and give him the player quest, I think, right, okay, maybe then when he meets Solstar and Yevgeny, if that's their names, if memory serves, that they can then give him some sort of quest. Or that they have a job for him or something that he can help with and then get some sort of reward and they can help him in return, maybe. I'll include links in the description to those resources. I think he's got a video where he does like 3 example Tarokka reading draws, and I believe that player hook quest is one of them, so I'll include a link to that. Next up is a magic item. I love this magic item. I've got a whole video dedicated to this magic item. It's called Luba's Tarokka of Souls. Mother Luba, there's a bit of information for her in Van Richten's Guide, and then also in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, which is where this magic item comes from. This magic item does all sorts of things. It's an artifact. It's even got like major and minor properties. It has a cool ability called Twist of Fate where you can impose advantage or disadvantage on somebody, but there's a side effect. There's also an aspect called Prisoners of Fate, because you're drawing a card from the Tarokka deck. If you draw one of the high deck cards, a monster could escape. And if they escape while in Barovia, then, you know, they're stuck somewhere else in Barovia, so that's great. It says in the magic item information that you roll a d100. Now, it's probably because they don't assume that you will have the cards. But if you do have the cards like I do, then, you know, drawing a card instead of rolling a d100 is so much more exciting. And that's what I do with my players. So let's do an example now. It works out because there's 14 high deck cards and 40 low deck cards. I think it's like 1 in every 3-ish or 4-ish times it can happen. So I've shuffled both packs together now. Ooh. Raven. So there you go. The first time they use it, straight away, the Raven card, a monster escapes. If they draw the Raven card somewhere within 10d10 miles in a random direction, random location within that, a vampire spawn appears. And that vampire spawn has advantage on everything. Person who's attuned to the cards and did the Prisoners of Fate, Twist of Fate ability gets disadvantage, as does the person they were targeting, until that vampire spawn with advantage and everything has been dealt with. So, a vampire spawn's not that bad, but there's some tougher enemies in there, like a Death Knight and a vampire. I freaked out when my players drew the Death Knight one, and there was a Death Knight with advantage and everything they had to take down. Like I said, there's a dedicated video all about it, where I also talk about some of the monster suggestions that can be drawn. I've changed because they're all monster manual suggestions, and some of them are repeated. There's 2 vampire spawns, there's 2 ghosts, and so on. So I tweak it so that there's something different for every single one. I would warn you, it is a very overpowered item. I probably wouldn't introduce it until after Curse of Strahd, because if they use the ability that imposes disadvantage on Strahd during the final battle, that can make the final battle really trivial. And also, if a monster like a Death Knight or a vampire with advantage and everything gets unleashed, it might distract from Strahd being the villain and stuff and could complicate things in the campaign. But it's good fun for getting people to other domains of dread. That's how I've used it in my post-Curse of Strahd domain hopping campaign. A really good example is they used it in the Sea of Sorrows, and a vampire escaped from it and ended up in Daemonlio, which I wasn't actually intending to run, but it's a long story. But I used a core map to kind of have a rough idea of what direction domains are from each other, even though the core map is an older Ravenloft thing, it doesn't apply in 5th edition. And it worked out that it ended up in Daemonlio, so I then ran Daemonlio and wouldn't have run Daemonlio otherwise, and then Daemonlio worked out really well. It was really good, fun. And they had to, it was a bit different. Instead of fighting the Dark Lord, they had to work with the Dark Lord to defeat this powerful vampire who wanted to take over from the Dark Lord, so it was really interesting. Next up, we have the second Tarokka reading. Full disclosure, I made this resource. It's on DM's Guild. It's the first DM's Guild resource I made. I say that as if I've made loads, I've only ever made 2. And it was my first ever video on this channel, was a demo and a sort of information video for it. Because when I was uploading it to DM's Guild, there was a little thing saying, if you had a video, more people might want to buy it. And I was like, great, I'll make a video. And then I made a video and I was like, I guess I could make more videos now about Ravenloft and Curse of Strahd. And that's where all these other videos have come from. So it started life. In my game, I ran Curse of Strahd. And then I had the idea for another Tarokka reading that's given to them not long after they leave Barovia for the first time and go to another domain of dread. I believe they were in Volkovnia and they're led to magic items and then fated ally, similar to Curse of Strahd, similar to the one Madam Eva gives, but instead of being just in Barovia, they're spread across all the domains of Dread, which I thought was a good way to kind of encourage them then to willingly visit different domains of Dread, as well as being dragged into domains of Dread or going to other domains of Dread for other reasons, such as quests and things like that. And the 3 items were in Folkovnia, which is quite convenient, that's where they were already, the Carnival and the Sea of Sorrows, and the ally was in Mordant. It was one of the Weathermay Foxgrove twins, and she still travels with them to this day, even though I think we started that campaign, gosh, about 3 years ago now. Time flies. And then I decided to type it up for the DMs and expand on it. My original list, I had 40 locations for the low deck for the items, but then I decided to triple it so that DMs had more variety and then there's less chance of having the same location drawn twice or 3 times. And yeah, and then made it available in DMs Guild. It was originally pay what you want, then it was paid. Now I'm kind of thinking of making it pay what you want again, so we'll see. I also did a follow-up video, this was more recent, just a few months ago, of other example draws, just so that I just kind of give more of a demonstration of, well, these are the things you could have. And I think for fun, I'm going to do another one while I've got the cards here. Okay, so I'm going to draw these now. This is the common deck. I'm going to draw 3 of these. Healer, Thief, and Enchanter. And then let's do the ally card now as well, which is the high deck. Raven again! Keep getting Raven. And then let's see what those were. So Healer was the first one. The options for Healer were Heart Akia, Darkon, or Richemolo. I think that's how that's pronounced. For Thief, it's Lamordia, Folkovnia, Sea of Sorrows, specifically the Lighthouse. I think I drew that in my campaign. And Enchanter, Bluetspur, Carticus, and Skaina, forgive the pronunciation there. So that's 9 different domains. So say, for example, from the first list, I choose Heart Akia. Then from the second list, I choose Lamordia. And then the third list, I choose Carticus. And those are the 3 domains I know I'll definitely include in my domain helping campaign. And then Raven for the ally. 3 choices for that as well. George Weathermay, who is the uncle of the Weathermay Foxgrove twins. Davian Martikoff, if he survived the events of Curse of Strahd, and Cabe Whippoorwill, who is an NPC introduced in Ravenloft Mist Hunters, the Adventurers League, Ravenloft stuff. So, and then you choose one of those, like you choose one of the locations for each of the cards. So if Davian isn't alive, choose George or Cabe. I know a few people have used it and they've liked it and it's worked well, so please check it out if you haven't already and you're thinking you want to do a post-Curse of Strahd Ravenloft domain hopping campaign. It doesn't even need to be a Curse of Strahd sequel. It can just be a Ravenloft campaign. It's pretty malleable and adaptable. See what you think. In the Castles Forlorn conversion 5th edition guide, there is a card reading in that. Castles Forlorn is a old 2nd edition, I believe, module that concerns Domain of Dread called Forlorn. I ran it a few months ago. It was really good fun, although the castle was a beast. It's like twice the size of Castle Ravenloft in Curse of Strahd. In the original, I don't think there was a card reading, but in this conversion guide, the person who made the conversion guide decided to add a Tarokka reading because there is a Vistani seer in the original adventure, I think. I incorporated that into my game. I did actually homebrew it further than the person who made it for the conversion guide did. So, and expanded it a little bit. If you go to my Forlorn Part 1 video, you'll see 2 times where I do the draw. I split it into 2 parts, basically. So instead of drawing 5 cards, I think initially I drew 2, and then later on I drew 3 more, or something like that, or maybe it's 3 then 2. But yeah, if you're thinking of running Castles Forlorn, or you're sending your players to Forlorn, and you decide to get Castles Forlorn and the Castles Forlorn, the Gothic conversion, then there is a card reading in that. Next up is Phantasms of Sri Raji. I really hope I pronounced that right. I probably haven't. And this is the DM's Guild campaign by PhD&D, Dr. Bowers. For those of you who know his Ravenloft videos, he also has a few DM's Guild resources, and this is an adventure he came up with. And I've not played or used it, full disclosure, but I did see a sample and got a glimpse of the card reading in the sort of free sample it gives in DM's Guild. And it does look very similar to Curse of Strahd's, where it offers an ally, a weapon, a tome, and just generally things that kind of help steer the adventure and, you know, power boosts, magic items, etc. that the players can have. I'll include a link for that in the description. Deck of Many Horrors. This is the DM's Guild resource by Darren G. Scott. It's sort of like a random encounters type thing. So for example, if you draw the Horseman card, you get a Death Knight encounter. And there's similar sort of things like that. I will note that it does predate Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft, so it may have been intended with a style of Ravenloft from pre-5th edition, such as the core, but it can probably be adaptable to a degree and still usable. I'll include a link to that in the description as well. Tarokka Deck Unleashed. This is DM's Guild resource by Joshua Raynack. The idea of it is that when you gain an inspiration point, instead of using that, you draw a Tarokka deck from the common deck. There's also an optional mechanic where there's something about morale points, and if you run out of morale points or you lose morale points, you draw a high deck card, and I think some of those are a lot more serious. I'm gonna put all my cards back together again. I'll put them in just one big pile. And let's do some examples from the resource, because I went ahead and got it. So here we are, shuffle, 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 shuffle. I don't believe this, Raven again. I swear I'm not rigging this. That's unreal, right? Like, that's happened a few times now. So what happens if you draw the Raven card? The Raven card is one of the high deck cards. All is hopeless. Until this despair ends, you are no longer proficient in saving throws. Oh, wow. Insight. If you have a proficiency insight skill, you can add your proficiency bonus to the despair saving throw. Something to, with the morale points is like a despair saving throw mechanic as well. Let's draw another one. Enchanter. I wanted an example of a high deck and a low deck. We had Enchanter earlier as well, didn't we? This is really weird. Maybe I'm just doing a terrible job shuffling them. It's probably that. Aha, here we go. When you make a charisma check, you can play this card as a reaction. You can treat a d20 roll of 9 or lower as a 10. Not bad. I'll include a link to that in the description. Tarokka-based random encounter effects. So this is by Sly Flourish. Today I learned it's Sly Flourish. Up until now I always thought it was Sky Flourish. I don't know why I thought that. And like with the last one and this one, I guess you probably use them in Curse of Strahd as well as wider Ravenloft. Every time you or Strahd thinks an encounter is looking very bland, our Lord of Barovia, in other words you, the DM, draws a card from the Tarokka deck and throws it in the middle of the table. I might just do that now. Then using the card list, you determine what effect comes into play for that encounter. Oops. If I draw Raven again, I swear to goodness. I didn't draw Raven, but I drew Enchanter again. What the heck is happening? This is freaky. This is like a free to access blog post, so it's not like something on the DM's Guild. Enchanter. A gleam of blue rune infuses iron with the weave. Any metal armor gains an additional +2 AC. So that would work well for your paladin and cleric in the group, and if they're fighting anyone else with metal armor, who would have metal armor? Or the Revenants, but then that's rotted away. I don't think there's many metal armor wearing monsters in Curse of Strahd, correct me if I'm wrong. Might have just have that completely wrong. It's similar, it reminds me sort of the Wild Magic Effects table, which I'm a big fan of, hence, you know, Wild Magic Sorcerer PC. I'm not sure how compatible it is with 2024 rules. I guess that applies to a lot of this stuff I've been talking about because a lot of it predates those rules. But do bear that in mind. I'll include a link in the description. The next two are games. So apparently, when you buy the official Tarokka deck online back in the day, it came with a game called Prophet's Gambit. I always want to say Gamble instead of Gambit. I can't find, when I bought my Tarokka deck, it either wasn't included or I've misplaced it or threw it away. I don't think I would have thrown it away, so it's probably somewhere. But I don't know. I did find a home brewery link to it. I don't know if that's someone who's done their own version or it's sort of a faithful recreation of the original, but I will include a link to that in the description for if you want to take it a look and try and play it yourself. But yeah, for fans of Texas Hold'em poker, such as myself, not that I've played it for a long time, it does sound pretty cool, and I think you can get like straights and flushes and things like that. Let's have a look actually. Yep, so you can get straight flush, 4 of a kind, and then even like the high cards, the high deck can have additional effects as well. Geas, is that how that's pronounced? The Vistani card game. In Dragon Magazine 210 on page 41, William W. Connors, who I believe was a writer in the sort of 2nd edition or maybe 3rd edition older Ravenloft, envisaged a Tarokka game. I did look at it, and maybe I needed to drink more coffee because I was looking at this. I was thinking, I think if I had lots of time on my hands and had some friends around, we would give it a go. But I will try. There was one aspect that I thought was quite cool, which is you try and basically make a party with your 5 cards. And I love the idea of that because I think all the low deck cards correspond with people, or all the glyph cards are different types of wizards, and all the coins cards are like things like rogue and thief and things like that. So I'm going to give that a try because I do like the idea of that. And then I think there's some mechanics where you have quests with your party and stuff like that, and certain cards are worth more than others and things like that. So I'm just going to do 5 cards, see what our party looks like. I've got a bishop. I suppose that's kind of similar to a cleric. An illusionist. That's pretty cool. Illusionist wizard. A seer. So, and that's a thingy one, a crown card, a high deck card. So you can get like, what are they called? Divination wizards, can't you? Paladin. Pretty handy. An anarchist. I don't know how that would work as a PC, but someone probably Celtic neutral, Celtic evil, I guess. That's fun. I think I could just like draw 5 cards all day and just envisage like, oh, that'd be cool. That could be a cool mechanic for like if you're starting a Ravenloft campaign and you have 5 players, you draw, if your players are up for this, there'd be a session 0 thing, I think. And maybe experienced players, people who are not sort of set on playing a certain person, want a bit of a challenge of, you know, having an idea is do this, and then maybe the 5 cards you draw are the kinds of characters they got to have. So this party would have been a cleric, a paladin, 2 types of wizards, 1 divination, 1 illusion, and then whatever anarchist is. I won't include a link to that because of copyright and stuff, but I'm sure you might be able to find it yourself. It might be worth having a look. General fortunes. So I think this is just a good thing you could have. If your players have access to a Tarokka deck, such as Luba, Tarokka of Souls, they can just draw cards to help them with decisions. And my PCs do this. They've done it at least twice, where they just, for fun, draw cards. And my 3 PCs are a wizard slash cleric, multiclassed into cleric, a paladin who multiclassed into warlock, and a rogue. And the wizard slash cleric is the one attuned to the cards, and he likes to just draw cards and see what, you know, help with decisions or do readings for random people and just try and figure it out. And there's a great story, and I shared this in my Fulkovnia video, where they met Gondogul, and Gondogul surrendered before being defeated, and they didn't know whether to let him go. I didn't gender swap it like 5th edition suggests. I used the old Gondogul, and they were thinking, right, do we kill him? Do we arrest him? Or do we let him go? And they drew the cards, 1 in 54 chance. They drew the missed card, and my players were like, we've got to let you go. And even though Fulkovnia was a closed domain, Gondogul, I had it, there's an ability, and I think this might be in the original lore for him, has an ability where he can leave domains even if they're closed. So they were like, we will let you go. And it was so cool. It's such an awesome moment. And even recently, I think it was the last session or maybe the session before last, they're in Haslan at the moment, and they saved some miners in Ramulai in a mine there. Talk about this in my upcoming Haslan video when I get to that point. And one of the miners is a kobold, and the wizard drew the card and it was broken one, and thinking on the feet, the player started saying, oh, it's because, you know, you feel like you're broken inside and things like that. And I was role-playing this little kobold being like, hey, maybe I can fix myself, kind of thing. So it's just fun. Your players might want to do stuff like that, even if it's not like Luba's Tarokka of Souls, which is what gave my players the opportunity to do that. Say if they manage to get hold of a Tarokka deck, like Esmeralda carries one as well, as Madam Eva, if memory serves, in Curse of Strahd, or, you know, if you're not doing Curse of Strahd but doing wider Ravenloft, they come across another Vistani, get hold of a non-magical Tarokka deck, then yeah, they might want to do stuff like that. And that was going to be that's the last one in the list properly. This last idea isn't something I've done yet, but it's something I'm thinking of doing. I had an idea for a subclass for the Bard, which is basically called College of Tarokka, and essentially it'd be a bit like Wild Magic Sorcerer, where you draw different cards and they do different things. Maybe when you level up, you start off when early on it's just the low deck, but then as you level up, you start to draw high deck cards as well, and maybe you get, I don't know how much overlap there is between Bard spells and Divination Wizard spells, but maybe as part of the subclass is Bards who've got Divination. I feel like maybe I'm accidentally plagiarizing and there's something like this that already exists, but I think I might give it a go and write it at some point, maybe make it available in DM's Guild, You'll have to let me know what you think. Or if you know of something that already exists, please let me know so I don't end up wasting my time creating something that's already out there. And then I'd probably want to buy that and use it myself. And then with my DM's permission, the person who DM'd the game with Amy also does some one-shots from time to time, so it could be something I can test out, and that could be pretty cool with her permission. What else? That's the end of my list. But if you know of anything else, any other uses for the Tarokka reading beyond all the suggestions I've used, please drop a comment. Upcoming videos. I recently finally got hold of the 2024 core books. It was my birthday recently, and I thought it would be an excuse to treat myself. The reason I've not really gotten them sooner is because I'm running a 2014 game, and I don't want to change rules in the middle of a campaign, and I don't want to confuse myself by running that and then also doing something this 2024. So I've not had any sort of real rush to buy them, but I finally got them, and then I'm thinking of doing videos that are like 2014 monster manual monsters you can add to Curse of Strahd that don't appear in the 2014 version, and wider Ravenloft, things like that. Probably talk about bastions. That's a new rule in the 2024 rules. Bastions in Ravenloft, how do they work? Should they work? Should you do bastions? And a whole bunch of other things. I can't draw in a blank right now, but I guess you'll see those soon. And we'll leave it there. Thank you, Mist Wanderers. And I'm going to end this video seeing what card I draw, and if it's Enchanter or Raven again, I'm actually going to scream. Horseman. Phew.